See, I just never mind. We're live, so I can't say it.
Oh,
well, you know, I can't say it right now. She doesn't watch this anyway.
Oh, dude, what are you doing? You sure?
Yeah,
sure?
Remember I told you that I just told everybody that I'm getting ready to do shows and I can't have calls and text messages for a little bit.
She just called you.
Literally just texted me.
And by she, do you mean your wife?
Yes, about a cake that she got for our little dinner thing coming up, because you know that could not wait.
Yeah,
she felt justified. Anyways, let me know when you're all shared and stuff. I can't seem to find it online, but let me know when you're ready, and we will get this thing started. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Yep.
You all warm and bundled up over there for the winter storms?
Brother, I've been practicing by traveling up north. So I can't do. I bought, from that one time I got sick, I bought all kinds of thermals. Wait,
one time, dude, you were sick for like a month.
I know, but that one time that I never stopped being sick, I bought thermals. And let me tell you something, them thermals are the shit, bro.
Right on.
The thermals I bought, you could not handle them.
No, just the word thermal I don't like.
Dude, I know. Merry Christmas, Marissa. All right, let's get the show started.
Yep. All right, let's do it.
Shut up and sit down.
Boom. And there you have it. We dropped the bomb.
On you.
See, baby. I wasn't going to go there, but anyways, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Dope and Dharma. This is the the Dharma Time Hour.
Oh, wow.
And he's, of course, the one and only Dope Doctor, and I am the Dharma Guy. What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in.
You almost said this is the Dope Hour.
Well, it's the dopest hour.
Ooh, amen to that, brother. Yeah.
I'm a little biased, though, I guess. But anyways, we're a little bit out of practice. This is the first Dharma Time, and I don't even know how long. For those of you who've been kind of paying attention, we've been doing the Couch Live on. Well, no, we did Couch Live like
Come
twice.
Come on, man! Seriously,
twice.
I was traveling, man.
And we did and then we did our Friday show, the political stuff.
Look, when we do shows, we do shows, man. Just tune in, people. What's up?
If you're following us on social media,
that's
at
how
the Dope Doctor, at the Dharma Guy, or even at Dope and Dharma, then you will get notifications when we go live, because we're apparently really bad at consistency when it comes to.
We're a moving target, man. Really.
Yeah. The problem is we have other things, right? So if you want us to do this consistently and full time, share it, like it, send it to everybody. And
that'll work for you, son. That'll work for you. But I'm not giving up what I do. I can't.
If this blows up, you never know. You never know.
This shit would have to blow up to the a large level.
We're gonna be multimillionaires, man.
We're
putting out good content. Because just because I said that, everybody's gonna share it and tell everybody to go about it. They're going to check out our new revised website that we did right there at WPSN99.com. I'm just full of promo right now.
I think we've proved that you could pay us and we're still not going to be on time. We've already proven that. We've proven you could make us be on a specific hour at a radio station, and we won't always do it. I think I've already proven that no matter how much money you pay me and how much time you say I have to be at a certain place, clearly I'm a bad influence on us, and I say, nah, we'll do it when we want to. But thank you, sponsors, and thank you, everybody else. Thank you, radio station, for understanding.
We are consistently inconsistent.
I'm a little bit spoiled.
Yes, we're consistently inconsistent. How about that?
Well, you used to be very consistent and very responsible. I just think that you got a little Delgado in you now. Well, I can't say Delgado because the rest of the Delgados are very. You got a little Louis in you. How about that?
Oh, there you go.
Ooh, that just sounds a little weird.
I don't know if I'm gonna. I'm not gonna sign off on that one. I don't think.
Yeah. I didn't like it myself. So you want to tell everybody how they can watch and see us? Because
I think I just did.
On there. Oh, you did?
I just did, but I'll do it again. Why not? Everybody, you guys, if you want to participate in any of our discussions live, while we go on air, you can go to Facebook Live, YouTube Live, or Twitch under Dope and Dharma. If you want to listen at your leisure, any of the major podcasting platforms, you can find us on there. So there you go. Anyways, let's get started, man. All right. So
Well,
First of
before
all,
you get started, I want to say, Marissa, stick around. Marissa's watching on Facebook Live. Stick around. Merry Christmas to you. And I know she's in a very cold temperatured area right now, like most people are in the United States.
yes.
We're going to be doing another show after this. We're going to, take like a 5-minute break and then come back and do our regular Friday show after this, a Dharma Time, this special edition of Dharma Time,
Right.
that was necessary. And we'll hopefully have you on, Marissa, and tell us about your storm up there. All right. So anyway, sorry about that. I just had to.
It's okay. Anything else you want to get out there before we get started?
I'm just justifying what I have to
do. So, anyways, yes, that's actually what today's show's about, as you can see on the bottom of the screen there. Talking about Justified, right? I know we got the holidays coming up. So first of all, I don't know if we'll be on again between now. I don't think we will actually. So Merry Christmas to everybody. If you celebrate. If you don't celebrate, then happy holidays, happy Saturday, Sunday, whatever it is for you. I hope you have a good time. But one thing I've noticed a lot lately, be it on social media, be it on just TV shows, just people in general, like I've noticed this trend, and I don't like it. I think it's a very unskillful trend, and I think it causes suffering for many people. And it's a trend that when I was a young child growing up, I was taught that, I had to do the right thing. And it didn't matter about why or what I was going through or whatever. Like 2 wrongs don't make a right. That was drilled into my head.
Was this drilled into your head like after the 2 miles of snow that you had to walk to school, or on the 2 miles?
Exactly. I did walk 2 miles. It just wasn't snowing. But no, I was taught constantly as a kid, man, like, 2 wrongs don't make a right. I'm still responsible for my actions, my behavior, accountability.
Huh.
And while I might have felt justified in certain behaviors, and while I might have had people agreeing with me, the premise or the consensus was still, you should have done that.
Right.
And so in today's world, it feels like the exact opposite, man. It feels like everybody's got a story and everybody's got context. And that's the only thing that matters, right? The end result doesn't matter. It's the context and the story. And I don't like that premise. I don't like that trend, right? And I think that that's a very unskillful way of going about it. It causes suffering for yourself and the people around you. And so we're going to talk about that today, right? Because too many people will do something or say something that was just disrespectful, rude, mean-hearted, whatever, like just inappropriate or unsavory things. They'll say or do those. And then when you ask them, like, dude, what are you doing? Why'd you do that? Instead of saying, you know what, I got overwhelmed. I lost my cool. I said something I shouldn't have said. No, their answer is, well, they did this. They said this, or this happened. And then they feel that somehow justifies the hurt that they inflicted on somebody else. And that to me is it's a problem, man. It's unskillful, right? And I started like in my own home. I'm passing on the teachings that my mother gave me to my kids. So my two little.
It's about time you hit them.
Exactly. She did actually. She used to spank me. But anyways, no. So if my two youngest ones, I can't say little anymore. They're 13 and 11. But something will happen. They'll get into it, and I'll come in. Of course, just like in sports, you always see the retaliation. You don't see the instigation. So I'll come in and I'll see somebody hit somebody back or somebody do whatever. I'm like, guys, what are we doing? And then inevitably, one of them that I caught is always, well, they did this. I'm like, yeah, but when I just came around the corner and saw you hitting them, if they hit you first or they said something to you, you don't just then turn around and pop off on them. That's not how we do things. And my son is going through a phase at the moment where he's really struggling with that. He'll go to school and he's surrounded by some knuckleheads that will say and do certain things. And then he'll get caught up in the moment and just tit for tat kind of a thing. And he's the one that ends up getting in trouble. And I get phone calls home. And when I confront him about it, I'm like, buddy, like, what are we doing here? And he's like, well, they do. He gets stuck in this mindset.
Sure.
That somehow he is allowed to or justified in saying or doing whatever he said and did because this person did that. Right. And I'm like, and I'm trying to tell him, at 11, it's understandable. But when I see adults doing it, that's a problem. So at 11, I'm like, buddy, You can't do that just because yes, you're right. That's 100% correct. What they did was inappropriate or it was wrong or whatever.
Right.
But you got to allow the proper people or the proper authorities handle that. There's a step, there's a process, and there's a protocol. When you take it upon yourself to do it, you then get in trouble. And what I think is hard about that is we all kind of know it in our bones, but emotionally, when we get caught up in something, we have this vengeance type thing inside of us, right? And so I think it's a normal thing. But then society kind of reiterates that now. When I was younger, there was a lot of finger wagging, but it seems like that has gone away as the years have gone by. Like now we seem as a society like we're almost signing off on that behavior. I mean, how many of our movies are vigilantes? You know, how many of our movies are like? There's always that scene where like the bully gets it. You know, like somebody's saying something and someone come, knock them out or something. We're like, yeah. But what they don't show is why that might feel good in that moment. That person's in jail now, right? Like, people have asked me many, many times. I guess I don't know because of my attitude or my size or whatever. They've asked me if somebody were to hurt one of my kids or do something to one of my kids, what would I do? And in my answer is always, I don't know what I would do. What I hope that I would do is let the authorities handle it and do it the right way. And they're always taken aback when I say that. And I was like, well, I would have those same feelings of wanting to go and hurt that person or do whatever. However, if somebody were to do something rude to one of my kids, right? And I were to go off and I would have hurt them. And because of my size and my abilities or whatever, say my anger got the better of me, I could really hurt somebody. And let's say I hurt them bad enough to where they're dead now. I'm going to go to jail for murder, for killing somebody. So now my daughter not only got accosted by this person, but now she also lost her father for the rest of her life. Like, I'm going to be in prison now. How does that help her? Like, it's a very selfish thing to want to retaliate.
Right.
And I get it. Like, I feel it too. I'm a dude. Like, we all have those inclinations, but we have to start learning or start embracing the idea of calm down. You know what I mean? Like, take a breath. What feels good just because you should doesn't mean, or just because you could doesn't mean you should, right? What feels good isn't always good for us. And I think we have to like embrace that a little bit. And I think it starts with us, right? Because we're not going to get it through society. Movies are going to still be made by vigilantes. The Will Smiths of the world are still going to be slapping people on stages and whatnot. And there's always going to be a group of people who look at that and think, yeah, that's right. And then there's, and I get that. I totally get it. But we're not talking about what feels good. We're talking about happiness, right? We're talking about at the end of the day, do you think Will Smith feels good about that right now? Because I'm pretty sure he lost millions of dollars, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people jumped on him about that. And if you believe the rumors, his marriage isn't even going to make it anyways. So at the end of the day, if you ask him, was it worth it? He might have a different story right now. And I think that's the idea that we're trying to push today on today's show is the end result. Kind of, the context of the story isn't always more important than the end result. You got any thoughts on that as we hash this out?
Yeah, first of all, on that one then, because I'll forget. It's different when you feel bad about it because you got caught or because you lost something. Like you said, Will Smith lost some things, so that's why he may feel bad. That is what I'm used to personally. Is I don't really feel bad about something morally. I feel bad about something because it didn't work out or because the person got more injured than I had anticipated or somehow I got in trouble for it or whatever. That's my history is what I'm saying. So I think what I've always strive for is try to get that sense of morality. That's why I've always joked that Dana is my moral compass. Right. In externally, she has been. Only now I'm the nice one and she's plain evil. She's she's
I don't believe that what you're selling.
Nobody does. That's the pain.
I know you're selling it. I don't believe it.
That's the struggle. But I'm blinking. Anyway. Anyway. So that's one thing. The other thing is do you think that the goals have been supplanted or exchanged for agendas? Do you think that the goals that people have now been taken over by their agenda? You know, they have an agenda in life, or they have an agenda in position, and therefore, whatever your goal should be to be a better person or to do the right thing, or you know, all those golden rules that you were talking about earlier, they've been replaced by your agenda is what's important. You know, so
in politics, sure.
But I think politics is bled into everything. So everything could be considered political now, right? So in other words, you and I both used to say the exact same sentence when people say, "Where do you stand politically?" Or you know, socially. We would say, "I'm fiscally conservative and socially liberal." Right. So but that is now everything. So when you talk about the golden rule and you talk about these teachings, there's always someone out there that says, "Look, your value system and my value system are different. So because your value system may come from a place of pain," like Marissa put, you know, something up there, and it's a little lengthy, so I don't know if it can fit on there, but Marissa on Facebook Live put something about, okay.
It says, people take that to the extreme now too, treating people like crap who don't even know them because of what they or their ancestors went through, or take their own struggles out on the world. I see it in the disabled community a lot.
Right. So taking something like that into context is what I'm saying. So those teachings. So if whatever comes out of your mouth comes from a place where in this current social climate is an abusive one, or that of authority, or that of privilege, then regardless of your life lesson, nobody's listening, or that other side's just not going to listen. Like it's not. There's no value to it.
Right.
And I think that allows, you know, people, for whatever reason, to divide us further. And I think that division has crept into these things like justifying your behavior, for instance, because, you know, what I was very happy with now, or I am very happy with now, but I wasn't then, is the fact that my parents never allowed me to feel like a victim. So no matter what my behavior was, even though I justified it all the time, I mean, you know, the teacher did this first, they said this first, that person did this first. I mean, because I had I was very impulsive. So I had no filter, which, as you could see, I've worked really hard on that.
Likewise.
But the physical filter was bad too, and so the physical filter would constantly get me in trouble. So it wasn't just the mouth, it was physical. So as soon as I would think something, instead of thinking it through, I would automatically hit the person, and I would get in trouble, and I never understood it. It took years to understand how, wait a minute, this person said this, they kind of earned the punch, or you know, me throwing something at him, or me, you know, whatever. and I'm glad that my parents never bought into that. Like, maybe publicly they would, like at school, they would always defend me, but privately they didn't. And by not doing it privately, it allowed me to eventually learn the lessons that you just mentioned right now. You know, the sticks and stones rules, the treat other people kindly rules, my parents, we were raised Catholic, so whatever came with Catholicism rules, whatever that is, there's a set of boundaries and guidelines that I was raised with. And I think one of the issues that I hear, at least the right side of the world, not meaning correct side, just meaning right side of the world, is saying that there's a value system that at least when you have it, you can go back to it and say, see, it's wrong because.
Right.
Whereas there's another side that says, but my intention matters, or why did it matters? So because I'm a victim, that you should punish me less, or maybe it shouldn't involve punishment. It should involve instead empathy and understanding, and therefore I'm really not guilty. You know, and I think that's what's blurring these lines, Trinity. That's why I like that we do Dharma Time, and I really love that we talk just, you know, from a non-political angle on this show, just saying, look, there is a right thing. There really is a right thing. You may not want to believe it, but there is a right thing and a wrong thing. In you people really do know that you're doing wrong. I think that if you have to justify your behavior, and if you have to give an excuse or reasoning for it, that's your first clue. Now, I know what it is. It's a roadmap, Trinity. It's really what it is, right? It's a roadmap to my behavior. In other words, I want to show you how I got to the part of my behavior that you're questioning.
Sure.
You did this. You said this. The world was like this. It was like this. Therefore, I did this. So you're trying to show a roadmap. But when you're saying that, what you're forgetting is that everybody has a roadmap.
Exactly.
So what you're really saying is my roadmap for some reason means more than your roadmap.
Yes.
Because we all have a roadmap to smack the shit out of you, to be honest with you. I mean,
Exactly.
I'm serious. I have a roadmap to smack everybody on this planet. There's if I wanted to, like those games that you like connect dots, I can connect dots to smacking you in the face all day long.
Absolutely.
If that's what I'm trying to do, right? But then you get the other kind of things that are like paint by numbers, where it tells you what color to paint.
Yeah.
And that, my friends, is how you get prettier pictures. Have you noticed that?
Absolutely.
I mean, those adult painting pictures now that like they have all these little squares and triangles, and then you get these little fancy colored pencils.
Mm-hmm.
See, go look at a coloring book from our generation and what we came up with.
Yeah, paint by number was always better.
Yeah, and now look at the ones that they come out with today that are like they're just like paint by numbers, except like much more sophisticated. Those come out a lot better because they gave you the lines and the colors and the schemes, and it comes out looking a lot better. Why? Because it's right. There is a right. There really is. I mean, if you're the parent that your kid does a stick figure and you go, "Oh, isn't that beautiful? That is the best in the world." You are an artist. You're the one creating those people that we laugh at on American Idol.
Wow.
You created that American Idol kid. You got to be realistic a little bit. I'm not saying don't be supportive, but you got to be a little realistic. The problem is that some of you are such jerk-offs to your kids that no matter how good they do, you go, that's not good enough, because you don't like what they want to be. They want to be an artist. They want to be a singer. They want to be something artistic. And you think, no, you got to be a doctor. You got to be a lawyer. You got to be an accountant. That's different.
Right.
And that's the line that I think got blurred, Trinity. I think that everyone on left hears the hardest right, which says, oh, you're trying to stifle their artistic expression, or you're hitting them. That's why I joke about hitting, or you're hitting and smacking them and abusing them. And then the other side is, oh, you let them do whatever they want. Like they look at the farthest left and go, oh, you let them do whatever they want. There's no discipline whatsoever. And so there is a middle, and most of us are middle. And that's why we do the middle show. But anyway, in this show, even on this show, your spirituality should also always involve a sense of morality and a rules that, look, if you don't like what was written out there, if you don't like a formalized religion or belief system or a philosophy like Buddhism, then you write it, but then stick to it. Stick to it.
Yeah. Well, so that's one of the things I like, right, about like in the recovery world, right? One of the really important things in the recovery world that a lot of people don't necessarily like when they first get into it is a higher power. Right. Because there's a lot of people who just aren't really into religion, and that's how they view higher power, and they can't wrap their heads around it, and they kind of rebel a little bit.
AKA accountability.
That's where I was going with this.
I'm sorry. Did I ruin the surprise?
No.
Okay.
But that to me is what I think higher power really is. It's just accountability. That's it. It's not some all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful thing that's dictating to you how to live your life. No. Yes. It's not some subservient kind of attitude. No, it's a set of guidelines and rules to keep you accountable to living the way that you want to live. Mm-hmm. And for me, one thing I have noticed that as the generations have gone, and what I think spirituality can still give people in today's world is that accountability and its principles, right? Right. So my oldest son now is in his 20s. He's in Tampa. And it started with him. I remember having a conversation with him years ago. He was like 15, 16. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to him, and he could not explain to me. He could give me, he could look up the textbook definition, but he couldn't explain to me principles, because it seems like in today's world, what's being pushed is everything is flexible. Everything is dependent upon something else. There's no rigidity anymore, right? Because rigidity has been looked at in such a bad way, and used unskillfully. Rigidity is a bad thing.
Yeah, but unless you build a structure.
Yeah, but rigidity is a great thing when it's a foundation, because you need that firm, solid foundation. And for me, that's what I'm trying to instill in my kids, and that's what I see dissipating as society moves forward, is this idea of principles. Because everything's flexible. Everything is dependent upon something else. Everything's cause and effect. And so, as we just stated, if that's the case, then you got to understand that not everybody's going to have good intent.
Right.
And some people are gonna have bad intent. And it might not even be their fault necessarily. They could just come from a bad area and their intent is bad.
Right.
And so therefore those people can justify anything. I can go burn my neighbor's house down right now, and I guarantee you give me enough time, I'll find a way to justify it. Period.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's the driving force of all of our behaviors, whether we can justify it or not, we're gonna have complete and total anarchy and chaos.
Right.
Because everything can be justified, as he was just saying.
Right.
And that's why I like principles. So for instance, when my son, like I think one time, he gets so frustrated when I have these conversations with him because he doesn't like it. And that is, I think one time I saw him push his sister, and I stopped him. I was like, dude, do not put your hands on your sister. Just don't. And he's like, yeah, but I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, I wouldn't even let him tell me the excuse because I'm trying to drive it into his head. It's a principle. You do not put your hands on people, let alone your sister. You know, you don't put your hands on girls as a boy, because he's already big, dude. He's already like taller than half the women in my life right now, and he's only 11. He's going to be a big boy, and he does not need me putting his hands on people, especially women. I'm just not cool with that. That's a principle that I'm trying to get through his head. I have never in my life struck a woman, and I never plan on. It's not going to happen. Have I felt justified many times in my life? Sure. I've had relationships where things got toxic, where I felt like, yeah, if you were a dude, I probably would have hit you by now. But I never did. And granted, I grew up in a household where that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I vowed to like make sure that was never going to happen for me.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, I was able to do that because it's a principle. It's not flexible. I don't care what my justifications are. I don't care what reasons. I don't care how I felt. At the end of the day, you don't do it. Period. And as long as you have that principle, and that's your guiding force, you're good. And so for me, I think that is what spirituality gives, is it gives a set of principles and guidelines. And I think that for whatever reason, we're not really doing that today. As a society, we've gotten so far removed. Like when we think of rigidity, we think of old, like, well, I'm going to use a woke phrase right now because I have no choice, but as a society, we hear rigidity, we think old white people owning slaves, not hiring women, not hiring gay people. Like we that's what we picture as a society. It's like the 1930s rigid dude. It was like, and that's not what it is, right? That's the extreme, right? And as he pointed out, the extreme of liberalism is just the free parenting, right? The free range parenting, where they don't even go to school, they just let them run wild. And that doesn't work either, right? There is a middle way. And so we have to get out of this mindset that everything rigid is instantly bad. No, man. Certain rigidity keeps people out of jail. Certain rigidity keeps people alive. I know for me, in my youth, there's a lot of people right now walking around alive at the moment because I was rigid in my principles of I'm not going to hurt you. Because as you say many times, I wasn't suicidal. I was homicidal.
Me too.
My answer was, well, if I hurt you, you won't really bug me anymore. But there's a lot of people walking around right now because I stood fast in my principles of no matter how I feel justified, you just don't do it.
Right.
And so I think that for me, that's what we need more of, is accountability. And that's a dirty word for a lot of people, because accountability, like, it feels good, right? It feels great to justify my behavior. It feels great to do whatever I want, no matter how it hurts or affects people around me, and be able to say, no, it's because of this. Yeah, and walk away like, yeah, that's right. I can do it. Of course it feels good. That's our lizard brain talking, right? That's that reactive thing that kept us alive for centuries, right? That allowed us to fight, saber-toothed tigers and our tribes next to us trying to take our stuff. Like, you're in my property, I'm gonna chuck a spear at you and kill you. Like, yeah, that's great for survival. We're not there anymore, guys.
Right.
We're much more civilized than we ever used to be in the past. Right. And so those ideas, that lizard brain of that reaction, that's why it's the oldest part of the brain, right? Because you need that early on to survive. Right. But as you've grown past infant stages and toddler stages and adolescent, then you got a certain amount of intelligence and wisdom, so you don't need that reactivity anymore. That's when the other part starts developing, the reasoning and the logic and the, hey, if I figure this out, use that part, guys. It's there. It's a really good part. And I think that's what we're talking about today, is too many of us, and I'm going to say us because I'm guilty of it too, will say and do something to hurt somebody else. And our first response is trying to justify that behavior, trying to tell them why they shouldn't be hurt right now, trying to tell them why they're wrong, as opposed to first looking inward and be like, "Ooh, did I accidentally do that? Like that wasn't my intent." And that's a problem. Is if somebody is hurt by something we said or did, we think, well, I didn't intend that, so it didn't happen. Well, no,
Right.
it did happen.
Right.
You might not have intended that, but you need to pay attention on how that person took it. And you're not responsible for how they took it, but you are responsible for empathy. You are responsible for listening to that person. It doesn't mean you need to change your entire behavior. It doesn't mean, you're a bad person. No, but if you hurt somebody unintentionally or not, because it happens at my house, right? Like my wife and I are at times polar opposites. I'm a much more analytical, logical, individual. She's much more emotional and free thinking. And there's been many a times where I'll say something and she'll come back like what she heard couldn't be further off from what I said and what I intended. And early on in our marriage, I was unskillful. Early on, my thought was like, are you crazy? What are you talking about? Like, I'd never even said that. But as I've gotten older and as her and I've spent more time together, I'm realizing she just thinks differently. She's coming from a completely different perspective. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I don't have to. I didn't marry me. I married somebody different. So therefore, I have to appreciate that difference instead of immediately like, "Oh, I didn't say that." I was like, "Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I didn't even realize that it came off that way. I'm sorry." Like, own it. Like, if it wasn't my intent, then I shouldn't have a problem listening to it and apologizing or whatever. And so I think that's part of the issue is we do things and we, like he said, we think the intent matters more than the end result. Well, I ask you, if you're listening to this, and if you're one of the individuals that think that the intent matters more, well, if you're, I'm gonna take it extreme right now. Why not? Just to piss some people off. If you're driving down the road and somebody wrecks into your car and kills your family, but the person driving the car, they didn't intend to do that. They looked the other way and ran into. Is it going to matter? Are you going to get out and hug them and tell them thank you? Or are you going to be really upset and mad and want vengeance and want them to pay and everything else? So intent isn't the only thing that matters, is my point. Like, the end results do matter to the people who are at the end of it. The person who got who received whatever it was that you were unintentionally dishing out, it matters to them. Go ahead. I know you got some.
Yeah, I took notes because there's no way I'd remember.
I went on a little soapbox there. I'm sorry.
No, you had good stuff to say, so I took notes and waited.
You didn't do this?
But I want to address some of the stuff that you said. Like you said, yeah, I can't do
The daring
that
thing.
because that just reminds me that I have a nose. That
Yeah, I
doesn't-
would just say I would forget why I'm touching my nose.
Yeah, I have no
For
idea.
those of you who aren't aware, we have a person daring in our lives that when we had board meetings, she would want to say something and she couldn't get it in, so she would do this to remember.
Yeah.
And we would always be like, "What? I don't know what that means." So,
Yeah, it doesn't work for me.
No.
Apparently, that memory button is missing on my end.
Exactly.
So, one of the things that you were talking about is caring, like not caring about the consequence or outcome and stuff like that. And so, I think one of the things that really saved me was that I cared about what my family thought. At the end of the day, no matter how rebellious or how awful my behavior was or attitude was, at the end of the day, I wanted them to look fondly upon me. And I think that really helped me. I'm not so sure you had that same, because you didn't have that same entire family structure that I had, right?
Right.
But I do know that for me, that family structure saved my life. I know it did. Because I cared about, as mad as I've been with my mom, I cared about what she thought about me at the end. I wanted her to love me. Is as close as I was to my dad, I just wanted him to be proud, because, I felt like he always took my side just because he felt sorry for me. But I wanted him to take my side because he believed in me. I wanted my brother to respect me. I didn't want him to always treat me like a punching bag and just like his little idiot. I wanted him to respect me. So there was so much there that I tried to ignore, which is what made me do a lot of horrible things. But as those insecurities resolved by working through them, I realized, wow, I really do care what they think. As much as I told myself, I don't care what people think. I don't care what people say. I don't care. All I care about is what I think. And no, that's, if you talk like that, it's probably not true. I'm going to bet that it's not true. You really do care what somebody thinks. And that is what's guiding a lot of your behavior and your attitude. And I think that's what allows some people to really be rude and hurtful and hateful is they're practicing, and we're teaching that it doesn't matter what others think about you. It only matters what you think about. And I understand why we started saying that. I just don't think it should be an overall virtue.
Yeah, it's not absolute.
Yeah, it's not an absolute virtue, because there's so many times where you need to listen to what we're saying to you right now, because your feelings and your thoughts aren't the only ones in this world, and we exist. And just because you think it and feel it doesn't make it okay and right. And so I think that teaching has gone overboard. There was another thing you were talking about. You're talking about basically like everything like rigid is bad now, right? And yeah, we're teaching that everything black and white is bad. Like black and white is bad. Everything is gray. The problem with it, and I do believe most things are gray, by the way. I don't think structure is gray.
Yeah.
You know, let's get this right. I think that what you build upon that structure is allowed to be gray.
Yeah.
You know, I think, but I think you said it best when you said the foundation has to be rigid. The foundation, and we would believe that. I mean, did we not read The Three Little Pigs? You know, am I the only one? I know nobody in Florida did, because I learned that bricks are what the wolf could not blow down, right?
Well, whoever doesn't believe
for some reason down here in the wind, in the hurricane capital of the world, we build everything out of straw.
Well, I got a hay bridge. I'll let you drive over.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous how you know. Anyway, so you do believe in structure, you do believe in rigidity. You just don't apply it to your own self. And the problem with thinking everything is gray and therefore you're allowed to do whatever. There's 50 shades of gray, right? See, and we all have a different shade of it, right? So for instance, even in that movie, you might think you're a little freaky, and then you watch somebody else and go like, yeah, but I'm not that freaky. You know what I mean? Right. There's always somebody more. There's somebody right now that when they see macaroni and cheese, they think about spreading it all over somebody and eating it off them. That is just, to me, just sloppy and ridiculous.
Who told you? I
don't. I'm just not into that. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter. Not everything is gray. Structure should never be. Your structure, my structure cannot be gray. If my structure and my foundation is gray, then you're in danger and I'm in danger. And I have nothing to teach children. There's no, telling kids that you like, we're going from helicopter parents to like letting them do everything they want parents, right?
Free range.
In the middle is where the truth is. Yeah, you got to give them some range. You know what I mean? Yeah, we went too far with the helicopter. That's why kids don't play outside anymore. It's because we created outside. Everything outside is toxic. You know. But now we're going too far and say, oh yeah, but in my house they're allowed to do whatever they want. Hell no, that is the most rigid place on the planet.
It is.
That's what creates the structure. Your house is the most rigid place on the planet. So all you people that say, oh, my kids should be allowed to do whatever they want out there, are they allowed to do that at your house? Seriously? Your kids? So your kids are allowed. Let me ask you, your kids allowed to get ketchup, get on your couch, and just spread it, like not even use a plate, and just, is that what your kids allowed to do at your house for real? No, they're not. So don't let them do it out there. So let me get this straight. So your kids allowed to just, when they're done with like a piece of trash, instead of using your garbage can at home, they're allowed to just throw it in the living room. Just throw the trash on the ground, because that's what they're doing out there. There's kids out there that are learning that it's okay to throw things out of their car, just litter all over the place. So do you let that happen at your house for real? So again, being in line and respecting other people's spaces. So your kid, when you're about to walk into your bathroom in your house, your kid's allowed to say, get right in front of you, get in there first, lock the door, and not let you in, and not respond to you when you're asking them to when they're coming out. Your kids allowed to do that at your house, because they're doing that out there. They're saying me first, cutting lines, not respecting other people's boundaries and spaces, and peeing all over the. Oh, that's another one. Your kid's allowed to pee all over the floor at your house? Is your kid allowed to just like spray the floor everywhere and not clean it up ever? Because that's what they're doing out here. These are the things that I'm talking about. That's structure. That's foundation. Now, from that comes all the emotional stuff that you should be teaching your kid. But it starts off with that basic crap that when I go out there, I'm thinking, what the hell? Who ever taught you this? And I'm talking even nice. I was at a nice restaurant the other day, Trinity. I had to work at a very nice restaurant the other day. You know, I'm speaking in this place. It's like just a gem of I mean, the cheapest dish, I think, is like $40-$50, right? And
so like a normal place for you.
So then I go into the bathroom expecting. So it's not about money, because there's some people with a lot of money that for some reason they think they have a sprinkler system. Ugh. Look, I don't know if my mom or dad taught me this, or maybe it's just naturally something I know, but I know how to aim. First of all, you got to get close enough, and you got to aim. For somebody said, "What are you backed off? How far are you? How far backed away are you that you got to peel over the?" And you look at it, and you go, "Oh my God, man, trash!" There's just so many of you that you're just so trashy in the outside world. You treat the world like trash. You treat people like trash. You treat everybody else's property like trash. You feel justified in doing it, and you treat everyone in authority like they're that one teacher that treated you poorly. Like you're so mad at your dad because your dad never came home. Sorry, Trinity, didn't mean to hit a
he came home. We wish he didn't come home.
You know, exactly. But some of you are so mad that your dad never came home that you're treating everybody out there like crap. Some of you are so mad that one boyfriend cheated on you that you're treating every man out there like they're toxic. So just stop. Stop justifying your shitty behavior by all the crap you've experienced in your life. And instead, if you think that there's no good people out there, well, then start with you. Didn't the pedophile Michael Jackson teach you that? Start with the man in the mirror. Start with you.
But you know what it reminds me of, though, and I've talked about this before on other shows, but and I'm sure everybody's seen a version of this post, and it's always bothered me.
Right.
I would see people posting, if you don't, I don't know if I'll quote it exactly, but if you don't love me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best.
Yeah.
Some version of that. And essentially what they're trying to say is, if you don't allow me to act like a crazy person, then you don't need to be around me when I'm doing well.
That's why I have another bedroom.
Yeah, well, that's what they're trying to.
I just go into my cave.
That's what they're actually saying. I don't think that's what their intent is, but that's what they're saying, right? And for me, I'm like, no, like I shouldn't have to suffer through you being your worst person. The goal is to not be the worst person, right? Like, you know, and love is a different story, right? If, you know, loving somebody at their worst, if they really truly understood what that meant, then they already have that,
right?
You know, I love my wife even if she's at her worst, but I don't accept her worst. No, if my wife is giving me a worst, I'm like, hold up, like I don't know what day you're going through, but we need to, you know, I'm not gonna like leave her or hit her or anything like that, but I'm gonna like, hey, we need to calm down.
But and the rule is you can't give the worst when they're being at their worst. Somebody's got to be in control. That's how you maintain healthiness. Because if you allow your crazy person in your life to get in their worst and be crazy and love them through their crazy, then they'll love you through your crazy. That's how it works. That's how you have a healthy relationship. Today's your day to be nutty. I'll be nutty tomorrow. Can we schedule that? You know, speaking of nutty, there's our buddy Richard Colvin. I love Richard, man. He hasn't been around in a while. He says, hello, gentlemen. He's got a little nutty comment for you.
He's just trying to give me a little stabber. Says, hello, gentlemen. Merry Christmas, you two Trinity. I think that was a stab at me because I'm an
You're Buddhist.
Yeah.
Well, you're Buddhist.
Yeah. But I would like to remind him, though, that it's a pagan holiday with pagan things. So look that one up there. But anyways,
I love him to death, and he's funny as hell.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to ask him on the next show too when we get into the weather.
Yeah, he's in the Carolinas.
Like yeah.
Today's the only day. Just to sidetrack really quickly. Today's the only day I've ever looked at my weather app, and as the day goes, it gets colder.
So will you wear sleeves today?
No. Every day, this is my outfit. This is what I'm wearing.
Did
but
you see
every
the picture
day,
I posted online about
yes. Every day when I look at my weather app in the morning time, it always like goes up by like 10 degrees mid-afternoon. And then obviously at night it cools down. Today's the only day I looked, and as it gets as the like midday, it's like 10 degrees colder than it was in the morning.
Trinity.
Love it. Fantastic.
Trinity, why didn't you comment on my Instagram post of you?
Oh, I did on Facebook. Well,
you did?
I don't know. I might have liked it. I don't know if I commented or not, but
you didn't comment on my beautiful picture of you. Look, when
awesome.
You sent that to me. Well, I know you sent it to me privately. I know you didn't intend for anyone.
Well, I had
to
no
see
clothes on.
I know, but I had to share it. I apologize for sharing that. So, at the Dope Doctor, if you want to see Trinity's, he had a naked picture he sent me. And I just could not help myself, and I did post that at the Dope Doctor. Go check it out.
Mammoth in the snow there.
Yeah.
But anyways, so but yeah.
Well, I fuzzed up that you didn't have
right.
You know.
But no, I think that we got to stop, man. We got to stop thinking that everything we do is justified because we have context or we have a story. We have a reason, so therefore suddenly that's okay. Because we don't take that from other people, right? At no point in our lives are we sitting there and getting completely mistreated by somebody, and because they tell us why, we're like, okay, that's cool. You know, thanks. Have a good day. No, we all, everybody I've ever met in my life says the same thing. Like, hey, don't take your bad day out on me. Like, I didn't do anything to you. Don't go out and have a bad day, come home and get mad at me. Or if you're in a store, you know, and the clerk is having a bad day, or the customer beforehand, and they take it on you. Right. No, you're gonna be like, hey, I didn't do anything. Like, so we don't like it. So stop doing it to other people. Yeah. You are not justified just because you can say something. Go for it.
Can you tell Dana that? Because see, so when I do things, sometimes
I'll tell Dana if you tell Angel.
All right. Well, sometimes when I do things, or I'll say something about what she's doing, which is very wrong, and I'll try to comment on it, and I'll say, Dana, you're very, very wrong. This is a very horrible thing you're doing right now. Yeah, I say it just like that too. Just that
always
loving.
Works
I say, Dana, that is not a very good thing you're doing right now. That's very unskillful of you, Dana. You can't do that. And then she has like a list of things that I did bad like 30 years ago.
Yes.
And she knows that I can't remember breakfast. So it's like totally unfair.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, some of you are like that. Like, you justify your behavior by what someone did to you in like at some point, and they're like, well, then you're I can't win.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Like, yes, you're justified if you would have done it like immediately. Like, like if I smack you and you smack me back, totally cool. That's why guys get along, by the way. Guys get along because we fight it out and then we're good. It's done. It's not like, but I don't call up the guys that I fought with physically and go, hey, man, by the way, remember that ass whooping? I'm still pissed about that. Yeah, we just don't do that. We laugh about it. Go like,
that's the thing I think too with men is we have a built-in accountability, because we know that at a certain point, if you say too much, you're going to get hit. Right. Like we have that
over. Do you think that man code stuff, man code stuff that we kind of joke about right now, that we're talking about right now, do you think those days are done?
No, I don't. I think there's still people out there carrying it on, because even the
are you sure? Because
there some people who have looked past, of course, but I still think that there is going to be a line. I still think that that as men, we do walk into a room and there is a part of us that realizes that person might get physical. Let me be cool.
And by the way, the only reason we say man is because that's my only reference, right? I wasn't raised in an all-female environment. I was raised in a very much an all-man environment, pretty much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is,
we're more at risk,
right? But what I'm saying is, they probably do it too, but they do it different. So I don't have that reference point. Is what I'm saying. So if by using the word man offends you, it's just, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about that. I wasn't raised in your situation. You weren't raised in my situation, because if you were raised in my situation, you'd say man too. So that's what I'm talking about. So it's like one of those things. It's like when you do sports. Right, they do sports, so they have. I guarantee a woman's locker room is not the same of what the women that are getting mad at us and calling us toxic males. They've probably never been in a woman's locker room, because I guarantee you that woman's locker room is not about, oh, how are you, sweetie?
No.
Oh, very nice, sweetie. No, guaranteed no. I'm sure they're just as raunchy as a guy's locker room.
Yeah, I mean, I've known female athletes, and absolutely, they get down just like we do.
They spit too.
But you're like, that's an example as well, right? So not to take it politically, but I'll just to give a frame of reference here, right? So I had a conversation with somebody in my life years ago now, and their perspective was a very progressive, liberal stance on social things. And their response to the people who, because I asked them the question, I was like, okay, well, what about this subset of people? And I just so happened to say, like, the Midwestern, farmer, whatever, who's kind of just doing their thing. What about those people? And their answer was basically get over it, whatever. Like, the overall conversation was pushing a certain agenda or pushing certain values that are contrary to what had been around for a long time. And my stance was, we have to accept both sides of it and kind of figure out a compromise here in the middle. And their answer was, no, this is the future. This is the way we're thinking. They just need to get on board. And what I was trying to explain to this person was like, well, if you're going to keep doing that, you can't be surprised by the resistance that you're getting. They're going to push back. Just like you're pushing back if I'm telling you you're too progressive and you're too out there, you need to bring it back in. You feel justified in your stance because you were raised a certain way, you've experienced certain things, and to you, this is the right way. I was like, but what you're not appreciating and you're not realizing is this other group over here, they don't necessarily hate you. They just have a different perspective. They have a different thing, a different era that they were raised in. They have different values. They have different concerns. And you trying to act as if the entire world sees things the way you and your friends do, you're just wrong on that. And the problem is you then feel justified to go ahead and treat these people poorly, or you feel justified to do the exact same thing that you were upset with. You felt that this group was harassing you or picking on you or looked at you poorly because of your characteristics, whatever they might be.
Right.
So then you turn around and say, well, because of the color that they're wearing or because of the area that they live in, they're backwards or this.
Right.
So you just judged an entire group of people.
Right.
And the problem is, that that's not a good thing to do because you were just complaining about it when it was done to you. But yet somehow you now immediately feel justified to do the exact same thing you're fighting against.
Amen.
That's what I'm talking about, right? We collectively have to stop thinking that we're justified to act any kind of way. And you know what that means? This is a big one. And this is one I had to get used to a long time ago. This is literally what, this is where the okay practice was born. That means you're going to have to take some losses sometimes. I know. I feel you. That is the last thing any of us want to do. I get it. You're going to have to take an L sometimes, meaning you're going to have a conversation with somebody where you walk away knowing that they don't agree with you. It's going to happen, and that's okay. Like, you're going to have to take the loss. You're going to have to say, you know what, I just didn't convince that person, and that's okay, and walk away. And because I think that's part of the problem is we feel that we're right so much, and we want everybody to conform to what we're thinking, that we feel justified on whatever tactics we have to use to get that done. And the problem is you're not justified, and you're probably not going to affect it, right? Like, I've never heard of anybody in the history of the world who's in a heated debate that somebody got vulgar and angry or whatever and yelled, and the other person was like, oh my gosh, I never even looked at it that way. Thank you so much. It's never happened. Look it up. Never happened. And if they did, it was facetious. They were being a smart ass. So my point is, you were not justified in your behavior. You're going to have to take some losses sometimes.
Yeah.
You're going to have to be okay with the fact that that person just doesn't agree with you. Like, and that's where I hate saying this because I don't like going into it, but the Karens of the world, right? And I hate that phrase, but
well, you're not allowed to say it anymore. Right?
It's in our lexicon, so I know that's the way I can not justify, but that's the way I can. Everybody knows what I'm talking about.
By the way, it's funny that Karen, the phrase "Karen" before you continue even exists. That as if only older white women can say things that are annoying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's my point.
Because I got mad at my mom a lot in my life before, you know what I mean? And she's a Latina woman. And she's about a 5 foot Latina woman, and she's done things to piss me off before. But I love you, Mom.
Though, is that's what makes people feel emboldened, right? Like this idea that somehow I'm so right that I can now force you to think and hear me out and do things my way.
Right.
And like that's where those people come from. And no, they're not just old white ladies named Karen. I'm sorry, but that's where those people come from, right? Like, and we've all experienced them on some degree or whatever. Like, the first person that pops in my head, this was years ago. I had a dog, and I had her on. I don't remember what happened, but I was at my mother's house. She had a porch out front, like a screened-in porch, and I had my dog out there because she didn't want her inside. I let her outside in the front porch. I had some water and everything down for her, but for my dogs, I've always been very strict as far as their eating schedules. I know they get fed at the same time. It's a ritual for me. That's how I always remember, and they always know what to expect. It's just every night around the same time I feed my dogs. Well, one day I came home, and this lady from upstairs came into my mom's screen and gave my dog food because from her perspective, she felt justified to infringe upon not only our home, but now my animal and everything else, not knowing if the dog was going to bite her, not knowing if they're on a special diet, not knowing if maybe it's recovering from something, they're not allowed to have food or water, like knowing none of that. This person felt justified to come in and feed her. And then and then called animal control on me, mind you. And when animal control came, they were like, "This is stupid," and they left. But the problem is that mindset of I'm justified because I think I'm right causes problems. I'm going to argue that it probably causes more problems than it solves. You might think it's solving problems, but that's where you're wrong.
Yeah.
She didn't accomplish anything other than pissing me off that day. I didn't walk away thinking, oh, maybe I should rethink. No.
Yeah.
I walked away thinking, who the hell is this stupid lady coming to like my dog could have bit her. Like, who knows what would happen? So my point is we have to stop doing that. The next time you're feeling justified in your anger or your frustration, let me preface this too by saying I'm not telling you not to feel angry.
Right.
Like you can be angry. I get angry a lot. You know, I have many days where I'm like, man.
Many times right before this show.
Right. But I don't do it. That's where I'm talking about. Like, I don't actually go and hit somebody. I don't actually go and berate somebody or, you know, throw vulgarities their way or whatever. I just don't. But so I'm not telling you not to think it. I'm not telling you to not feel these things. What I'm saying is the principle should be just because you could doesn't mean you should. I could yell at somebody. I could do these things, but I'm not going to. And that's what we're talking about. So the next time you feel justified in your outrage, you know, and you could probably get 1 million people to back you up, I'm sure. As Louis and I have always talked about, if you want to go into like a bar and start talking bad about women or your wife, you can probably have 1,000 dudes all behind you. Like, yeah, you know.
Yep.
So it's easy to get people to back you up when they hear your side of the story.
Even bar women will back you up on that one.
Yeah.
Problem.
So next time you're feeling justified, think to yourself, would you be okay if you were then receiving into that?
You know, the other thing you had mentioned, the justification to allow people to treat people poorly. And I'm thinking that sometimes we justify like 50 behaviors of ours based on one thing about another person. It's one aspect of that other person. Yeah. And that's what kind of we're seeing today in today's world, right? We're seeing people that take issue with maybe one aspect about another person, and therefore the rest of that person is irrelevant.
It erases everything good about you.
You know, for instance, there's things that we say that people probably like, you guys are just ridiculous, right? But we help save people's lives as a job. Like, that's what we do for a living. We actually help people have better lives. Like, we help treat people that have substance use disorders. We help treat people with mental health issues. So we actually put our money where our mouth is, and we do service work, a lot of free work with nonprofits, multiple nonprofits. Yeah. We devote an amazing amount of hours to helping society, right? But somebody may come on here and says, oh, you hear what they said about, you know, this? You hear what they said about, and discount everything we did. Yeah. That's the problem.
Yeah.
We have to know that somebody that maybe disagrees with you on one issue is probably a really good person in a lot of other ways. You guys just happen to disagree on a specific issue, and that's okay. You can't justify your hate and your bitterness and your frustration and anger because you have unresolved emotional stuff going on inside you. You got to deal with your own emotional stuff going on inside you. That's why spirituality can be helpful to you. And unfortunately, the people that I think spout the most hate and anger out there, if I say spirituality, they go, like they vomit in their mouth hearing the word spirituality. It's like, I didn't say religion, I said spirituality. Yeah. And if you don't know the difference and you can't create the difference, well, then go back to your little book of words that you say words are important and figure that out. Because for some reason, you don't know what the word spirituality means. And we all have a spirit. And the word spirit is not owned by religion.
No,
it's just not. You know, so whatever you want to believe. And I'm sorry that maybe somebody of a religion hurt you, diddled you, punched you, lied to you, cheated on you. That doesn't justify your behavior to all people of religions. I personally used to be bothered when people would say, you know, I'd pray for you, or, you know, have you picked a church yet? You know, like when you move somewhere, I'd be like, that's so offensive. It's not offensive. They love you. They're loving you in their way. Who cares? It didn't affect my life at all to say something nice back to them. You can knock on my door and give me a pamphlet, and I'll still say, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. Yeah, I'll read it. Whether I read it or not is irrelevant, but I don't have to treat them poorly. I don't have to get mad that they knocked on my door. They're doing what they feel they have to do. These are the things that I think that we justify our rudeness based on saying, well, they're being rude. They're knocking on my door. Who cares what they're knocking on your door? Who cares? Doesn't let it go.
Yeah.
You know, they feel that what they're doing is very important. And so they're not coming from a bad place. You want to be judged by what place you come from because of your bad upbringing, or because your mommy or daddy treated you poorly, or because the world treated you poorly, or because you come from the wrong side of the tracks, or whatever, or because nobody understood your gender preference. You want to come and say, well, you want to be, well, then understand their meaning and why they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
These are the things that I think that our justifications are in a bad place right now. Is that it's all one-sided. We're justifying our own behavior, but we don't let you explain your thing. So look, you are right for doing what you're doing for yourself, but you're not right for what you're doing for yourself for me. It doesn't work for me. It works for you, but is it? You don't have a parallel life existing, you behaving differently, so you have no idea. Your logic is not based on any science. None of ours is.
No,
it's impossible to base our logic on science. And everybody that does something rude always wants to say, but I'm on the right side of history. You're not a space traveler. You're not a time traveler.
Yeah.
And by the way, what's right today was not right 20 years ago. You would have went back 20 years ago and you would have been wrong. It's just the way it is in a lot of things, by the way. Like saying the Cubs were a good team. Yeah. You were wrong 20 years ago. Maybe they're all right now. There's all kinds of shit that we constantly want to justify our behavior by, whether it be by past or by history. No, you're living now. You're here now. Anyway.
Well, the person who doesn't like, you mentioned earlier, the person who maybe had a bad interaction with
right.
like somebody from a certain religion,
right?
And then from that point forward, they can't stand anybody from the religion because
right.
of that one person,
right?
But like, do you do the same thing for non-believers? Like, for someone who doesn't believe, if they were rude to you, do you now hate all non-believers as well? Like,
never.
No, that's
never.
the thing. It's a very biased hating. Like, you can't even see that.
Very. I've been treated poorly at restaurants before. I still go to restaurants.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not gonna judge all restaurants.
Yeah. Well, how many times have you gone through like a fast food place and they like messed up your order? You go back at some point, and you'll go back.
It's just rude as hell.
Not Chick-fil-A.
No, never Chick-fil-A. Oh, by the way, that's why they're all losing their jobs. By the way, it's all gone. It's all automated now. Good luck.
The other thing I want to make sure
you got what you paid for.
Well, the other thing I want to make sure I put out there, because we haven't said it yet. Inevitably, I don't care who you are, you're going to justify poor behavior.
Yes,
you're going to do something as a reactionary thing, an impulsive thing, an emotional thing, and you're going to lash out and you're going to hurt somebody. It's going to happen. I don't care how skillful you are. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. The other major component that we haven't really mentioned here, I think we've danced around it, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Own it. Own it. That's my biggest thing. I don't care. We all have unskillful moments. We all make mistakes. We all, let our emotions get the better of us. Sometimes it happens. To me, the most important part, even more important than not doing it, is when you do it, own it.
Yeah.
Don't, when the person calls you on it and say, hey, whoa, like that was kind of, own it. Own it at some point, even if you can't do it at that exact moment, which you should, but if you can't, come back. I'm like, you know what? I was messed up. I apologize. Like I really shouldn't have done that. Whatever. Own it. Don't infringe upon them and treat them poorly, then justify it. And then in your heart of hearts, know that, that was probably a bit too much.
Yeah.
And then just stay steadfast in your denial of it. And just like, no, like, and let that person continue to sit with it over. And no, man, you'd be surprised at how much you can diffuse something just by coming and owning it and be like, you know what? Yeah, that was my bad. Yeah, I do it. And even then you could justify it to them and say, hey, look, man, I was just in a bad space that day. You didn't deserve that. I'm sorry. Like that, my bad. You'd be surprised at how quickly we are to forgive too.
Right.
If you come to us and you just own it, but when you don't want to own it and you just want to justify it, then you leave a nasty taste in their mouth, and even yours too sometimes. Who knows? But the point is you got to own it, right? Like when you've done something. Like if you take a step back and you listen to what they're saying, you're like, yeah. You look at your day and you realize that It's one of those days, man, where your alarm didn't go off. You know, the hot water for whatever reason wasn't working. You know, you looked to go make some eggs. There wasn't any eggs left. You stubbed your toe on the way out the door. It's just piling up. And when you got to work, that person and met you in the morning was like, "Hey, how you doing? Good morning." And you were just nasty and mean and rude, right? And you feel justified in that exact moment because you're in a bad headspace and you reacted. Fine, I get it. But throughout the day, you're going to think about that interaction. You're going to know, like, oh, yeah, that was probably shouldn't have said that. They didn't deserve that. There's nothing wrong with going to that person later and say, you know what, earlier today or yesterday or whatever it was, I was kind of rude to you and you didn't deserve that. My bad. Own it. That's all I'm saying. Because I think the idea sometimes is we put across, people think that it's an all or nothing game, meaning you got to be all good all the time or just all bad all the time. And that's not the case. The intent should be to live a life where you're skillful, but when those moments where you're not skillful, own it. Let them know, you know what? I see you. I'm sorry.
Right.
You got any final words before we wrap this up?
Marissa made me laugh because, she happens to have no, and you know what, Marissa, I belong in your club now too, because I don't feel my right leg is, for those of you that don't know, is completely numb. I don't feel it. So yeah, I stubbed my toe. I actually say, if mosquitoes are going to bite me, please do it on my right leg or my head on the left side. That way I don't have to feel it. That's funny. She also was right when she said, Marissa on Facebook Live, by the way, you didn't finish that thought, Louis. You're here now, and now matters more. You realize, I don't know how I didn't finish that thought. Now it does matter more. I just have one last thing to say.
Yeah.
If you're out there and you're saying, I don't care, if you ever catch yourself, and we all say it, right? It's kind of normal. I don't care. That's when we're being the least spiritual. So if you say that, that's when you should probably take a step back and get into whatever spirituality or belief system or philosophy on life you're into, and probably dig deeper, because that sentence is the foundation of negative behavior, negative thought, negative action. So as soon as you catch yourself ever saying, especially if you say it out loud, because if you say it out loud, then you're closer to a bad decision and bad behavior, by the way. Thinking it is one thing, but when you say it, you're already justifying it to yourself, to someone else, and therefore you're about to do something. So that's when you should probably pray. I'm not saying it's bad, because we all say it, right? We all slip, right?
If you think about it, has anything good ever come after the phrase "I don't care"?
No. As soon as you say "I don't care,"
nothing after that is going to be good.
It's like "Hold my beer." "Hold my beer" tells you,
yes,
get the tape rolling, right? Like start recording. Well, "I don't care" is like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what I'm, and that's it. And I'm ready to go do a wardrobe change for the next show. I'm going to do a wardrobe change for the next show.
Okay. Well, first off, I'd say thank you everybody who's watching, checking us out. Once again, anytime you want to have your comments read and participate, you can go to Facebook Live, YouTube Live, or Twitch. Look under Dope and Dharma. If you want to listen to us on the go and just catch us at your leisure, you can do it on any of the major podcasting platforms. We're on there as well. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that kind of fun stuff. It does help us.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying to push this a little bit, so all the help we can get, we'd appreciate. And yes, as he just said, if you're watching this live at the moment, it is Friday, and I know Dharma Time is usually on Tuesdays, but we're going to take a quick little 5-minute break, come back, and we'll do our We the Middle show, where the emphasis is probably going to be about this crazy coldness that's coming for everybody.
And masks. So, we'll talk about some masks too, because I've been doing a lot of flights, and masks are back, by the way. So let's talk about it.
So if you want to talk about some political commentary or whatever, make sure you follow us and tune back in a couple minutes when we come back on. In the meantime, I would say, yeah, man, we all have, as he said, we all have a story to tell. We all have things that we feel justified or injured on, or moments, whatever it might be. We all have them. And if you don't want other people to put that on you, then don't go around putting it on other people. You are not justified just because you feel that you are. And justified is a figment. Anyways, it's an idea. It's not an actual verifiable thing, right? Justified is just, I felt this certain way, so I'm going to do it. And so for me, I think that's where spirituality comes into play. That's your guiding force. That's your roadmap to success. That's your foundation. Whatever your spirituality is, if it's a religion, if it's a mindset, if it's a philosophy, whatever it is, it's most likely going to include some form of accountability within it. And that's what's important. We are all accountable for our behavior, whether you want to be or not. You are in some form of way, some form or fashion. So stop thinking you're justified to act any old kind of way because you can back it up. You can't. At the end of the day, the way that person feels is important, much in the same way you want them to think the way you feel is important. So anyways, that's all I got for right now. Thank you guys for tuning in, and see you in a little bit. Now that you know better, do better. Peace. Good times.
All right. So I'll go to the bathroom, do my wardrobe shades. You're going to start a new broadcast?